mosquitoes, monkeys, and lions are bad, that is just the beginning. I've seen things you only seen in your nightmares, things you can't even imagine, things you can't even see. There are things that hunt you in the night, then something screams, and then you hear them eating, and you hope to God you're not desert. Afraid? You don't even know what afraid is. You would not last 5 minutes without me. Or you would not last 5 minutes without Seismic Cinema. We're Seismic Cinema. I'm James. I've probably written an essay on it. Paul has watched it in the wrong order. And Colin.
Probably haven't seen it.
How you doing, buddy?
Aye, I'm a bit scared after that intro. Like, I don't want all these creatures coming after me, you know?
I know, I thought a wee bit long and hard about the monologue, but I found one. So, there you go.
Only to be expected.
Right, that's it. Right, okay. So, before we get into the review of Jumanji, which is tonight's review, just a kind of wee back up on what we've done previously. So, before tonight's review of Jumanji, we recorded The Running Man, which is sitting just over 300 views, man. So, that's pretty decent. So, thank you for all those people who've checked it out. And on the way, we've managed to gain another subscriber. So, we're sitting at 172 subscribers. So, thank you very much.
I think we can get to 175 after this one, what do you think?
I think so as well. So 3 more, get to our next target. Before The Running Man, we looked and reviewed Jurassic Park. So all things dinosaurs. So again, we had a lot of fun recording that.
Should have more views.
You say that about a lot of the films you pick, mate. Right.
Well,
so you're still disappointed in the Hunger Games, aren't you?
Don't want to talk about
it. That's probably because people have a lot of opinions on Hunger Games, like myself.
It's still better than The Running Man, but never mind.
Oh, how dare you! Right, okay. So, the housekeeping, you can follow us on X. Actually, I don't usually call it X. Twitter.
X.
That's the first time I've called it that. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Blue Sky, and the Facebook pages, which is the main page and the community group. You can watch and listen to us on YouTube, Spotify for creators, Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, Audible, Amazon Music, and Castbox.
Don't forget Castbox.
Top quality Castbox stuff. And we are also part of the Podpack Collective, group of indie podcasters trying to make it a better scene. You can check them all out on Twitter, a variety of podcasts. So go and see and check them out, and you might find something that suits you. Okay. And also, we shout out to our good friends and the podcast. What's the Script? Their latest episode was on Fight Club, which I listened to the other day. It's top notch. I love Fight Club. I would say it's one of my favourite films.
I thought you weren't supposed to talk about it.
Well, we are allowed to talk about it.
Oh.
We are allowed to talk about it here. It's the one time only thing.
It's a safe space.
It is. So I give them a listen. I listen to a wee follow. So they're good guys, and they're funny as well into the bargain. So it's not just a film podcast, you get some humour into it too. Okay then. So right now I'm going to ask you, Colin, what have you up to, mate? What have you been watching, reading, whatever?
Not too much, to be honest. I kind of fell out of rewatching Lost, but I've been watching Suits just as a kind of easy watch when I'm doing bits and bobs. My main show at the moment is From. I'm kind of getting towards the end of season 1 now. I'm not going very quick through it, but hopefully pick up the pace a wee bit. And I watched my two business shows last night, Dragon's Den and The Apprentice. Fell asleep during The Apprentice, which is says a lot about that show. And I watched Jumanji, and I also watched almost all of the kind of reboot, the Welcome to the Jungle one. So might touch on the aspects of that as we go through as well.
I'd be my guess, mate. I've obviously watched it during Christmas time, so it's kind of fresh in my head anyway. So that's a fair few things I've seen and watched.
Not really, to be honest. Just Jumanji's the only film I've watched, but I've got a wee list of things I want to watch over the next wee while, and we'll see what episode we decide on next.
You get a week off at the February holiday, so
yeah. So I should be able to catch some stuff this week. So hopefully I have a wee list for you for next week.
Okay. For me, mate, I'm on season 3, episode 13 now of Sons of Anarchy. I'm on the last episode of the third season, so I'm getting there. It's all kicking off now, so it is. They're in Ireland. I won't spoil it for you, mate, but they're in Ireland, and they went via Stranraer as well to get there.
I've been there.
So they go through Scotland. Obviously, I watched Jumanji for the podcast, and of course, Expedition Bigfoot, season 6, episode 2. So it's pretty good viewing. Enjoying that. I'm not going
to ask if they found him yet.
They've not found him or her yet, but there's very strong evidence now, man. There's very strong evidence. Leave it at that. Okay. So, here to listen to our review on Jumanji. So a wee rundown on Jumanji then. It was released in 1995. The director was Joe Johnston. Written by Jonathan Hensley, Greg Taylor, not the Celtic player, Strain as well. The cast for the film was Robin Williams as Alan Parrish, Kirsten Dunst as Judy, Bradley Pierce as Peter, Bonnie Hunt as Sarah, Jonathan Hyde as Van Pelt, Sam Parrish, David Alan Greer as Carl. I think it's a Glaswegian. I can't really say the word, the name Carl. I don't know.
Carl.
Right, you get my drift. The budget for the film is 65 million. It took over 262 million. So that's a decent profit there. The running time is 1 hour 44 minutes. The IMDb score is 7.1. Rotten Tomatoes is 52%. And the tagline for this was roll the dice and unleash the excitement.
And there's obviously the one that comes in the game as well, isn't there, about the escaping. Actually, this matches quite well with our kind of prior tagline, doesn't it? Power of escapism. It's a good match. Just on the director, I recognised the name Joe Johnston, so I did a wee bit of digging. He directed Captain America: The First Avenger, Jurassic Park 3, and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which is a classic film from my childhood. But where I actually really remember the name from, there was some kind of connection to Star Wars, and I was right. He was a visual effects director for Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and that's why I'd recognised his name, because he was been in some of the ILM documentaries and things like that.
All right.
That wasn't even just to get my Star Wars reference in. I just generally recognised the name and wanted to follow that hunch.
Fair dues, mate. It's a wee bit of digging. Got you what you wanted. Star Wars. It won awards, this film, believe it or not. Bonnie Hunt won the Saturn Award for Best Supporting Actress. It won the Saturn Award for the special effects, and it won the Young Artist Award for the Best Family Feature. So there you have it, 3 awards. Not big awards. Well, I don't know how big the awards are, but certainly had to hear them until I did the podcast stuff. So there you go.
I've heard of the Saturn one anyway.
They're out of this world, aren't they? Anyway, bad joke.
Enough.
Sorry. Right, so Colin, talk to me about your history of Jumanji 1995.
So it's a film I remember being a kind of childhood favourite. However, see, when I rewatched it, I think this is the first time I've rewatched it since probably the 90s, to be honest, a wee bit like some other films. But my recollection of it wasn't that great, to be honest. I spent a lot of the film expecting them to go into the game, into the actual Jumanji world, and obviously that doesn't happen in this one. Although it does happen in the reboot. So I don't know why I had it in my head from childhood that they actually went into the game rather than the game coming to them. So that was a bit of a weird one. Also, I do not remember a young Kirsten Dunst being in this, and so if I'm right in saying, do you not dislike her?
No, I don't know. I don't
Or is
really
it
have.
someone else?
I think
Is
it's
it
Craig
Paul?
from a
Craig's-
script.
someone connected to us doesn't like Kirsten Dunst anyway.
I'm pretty sure Craig from a script doesn't like her.
But as soon as you see her, although she's really young in this, you clock her right away. So my memory's a wee bit hazy. It was one I really remember, but my only real memories, I think, are the game itself and Robin Williams being in it. I didn't really obviously I remembered that there was like animals and other crazy things, but that was my memories really. What about yourself?
Well, I went to the cinema to see this, mate. I was 10 when it came out. Went to the cinema with my dad to watch it, and I loved it, mate. Do you know what I mean? I think it's such a kind of as a family film, mate. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of way it's kind of when it's kind of warm, it kind of feel good in a way. Do you know what I mean? It's quite good that way, and it's one of the films that I do prefer this film than the reboots that you were talking about, and maybe I hadn't seen it for a while. And I remember, like, you're talking about, you didn't really remember you thought to get sucked into the game, but the actual game came to them. No, I remember that. I knew that's the way it was different for the reboots and things, but I remember being in cinema watching it. I didn't have it in DVD or anything. I mean, it was so, I don't know, but I definitely did watch it before now. I just don't know when. But I seen it when I was younger, mate. So, what age were you when it came out?
4 must have been.
Aye, so you wouldn't have watched it until.
I've got a sneaky suspicion I maybe had the VHS, but I'd love to know where all my VHSs are. They must be gone. I've only got a few left, really.
Aye, my brother must have had it in tape VHS. That's what I can think of. Or I got it for a video shop or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So, anyway, I'm glad you've seen this film before, mate. That's obviously.
It was one that I've got a wee list for future reviews, and it was on my list. I had to take it off and put something else in its place now.
Aye. Right. Okay. So, obviously, for this, we gave it the options on the social media accounts. It was either Jumanji, Free Willy, or Night at the Museum. And
I can see the link between Night at the Museum and Jumanji, but where did Free Willy come into the equation?
I like whales, mate. I like whales.
I like sharks.
I'm a big fan of sharks, mate. We've covered that one.
Check out our episode of Jaws.
I like whales, mate, so that's why I could get to play, mate. So Jumanji
do you know whales used to have legs?
Did they?
They used to live on land, and then they went to the water, and their legs disappeared over the years.
Yeah. Well, salt water does to you, I suppose. Jumanji was the winner with quite some distance. So thanks for everyone who voted. Right, so synopsis of the film then. So in 1969, young Alan Parrish discovers a mysterious board game called Jumanji and plays it with his friend Sarah Whittle. When he rolls the dice, Alan magically is sucked into the game, and years later, the game is rediscovered and Alan Parrish is released from the game along with a host of dangers. The only way it can be stopped is by finishing the game. So I found those online, but I've kind of combined them to make it a bit better because ones I seen were rubbish. So I've made it slightly better.
ChatGPT.
Nah, man. It's better. Don't trust AI. Right. Trivia. Have you got some trivia for the film, Colin?
Yeah, I've got a few things. So
Right.
when they were filming the film, Robin Williams was so loved by the community. He was given the keys to New Hampshire, and also the parish shoes sign is apparently still on display
I read
there as
that.
well.
I read that
Have
one.
you got some as well, by the way, just so I don't
I've
steal them
got
all? Or?
some. No, I've got some for like the actors and actresses who could have had the role. So I'll
Right,
jump
okay.
on them.
I'll hold off for them then. So the meaning of the word Jumanji is many effects in Zulu, which I think is some form of African dialect. Um, so at the end of the film, the the game ends up on a beach in France. From there it must travel by sea to the USA to be picked up for the reboots, which is quite a journey. I'll skip the ones related to the actors. There's a few deleted scenes. So Bentley becomes the president of Paris Shoes in one of the deleted scenes, which I haven't seen, but I just read about. And also the kids are given the Christmas gift that they're given was actually a pair of shoes from the company, which were Jumanji shoes. And just one more. Obviously, the concept for the movie came from a picture book. There was also an animated series, and obviously the two. Are we calling them reboots, or are they more like spin-offs, or it's kind
I'm
of
not really sure, mate.
grey territory, isn't it? It's kind of a
It's not.
sequel in a weird way as well.
Because it's not actually the Jumanji game. Obviously, in the
Yeah.
reboot or whatever you want to call it, it's a
Mhm.
computer game. Do you know what I mean? So it's not actually a
Yeah,
physical board game.
yeah, but it obviously just evolved with the times.
Aye.
So yeah, I had a few other ones related to the actors and stuff, but I'll let you field them.
Aye. So the Alan Parrish, who was played by Robin Williams, apparently there was a few actors in mind. There was Kevin Costner. He was busy with Waterworld at that time. Sean Penn, Michael Keaton, Bruce Willis, and Tom Hanks. So they were all considered the role. But
Got a couple more there as well. Bryan
Robin,
Cranston, Chevy Chase, and your boy Arnie.
Jumanji. No, Robin Williams was cast because his ability to balance humour and emotional depth. Apparently, so he was, and also he's funny as well. So,
What do you mean? Apparently, have you seen Good Will Hunting?
when did I say apparently?
You
What did I
just said
say?
about you said Williams' ability for emotional depth. Apparently.
Oh, but well, well, of course he is. He is very good in that film. Which is another film he did
The
back in the
Deadpool
day.
Society.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So Sarah Whittle, who played by Bonnie Hunt, Laura Dern, who was in Jurassic Park but turned it down, Demi Moore, Nicole Kidman, and Jodie Foster. But Bonnie Hunt won it because apparently she had good chemistry with Robin Williams. And Judy, who is Kirsten Dunst. I wasn't shocked at this, but Scarlett Johansson auditioned for it and lost out.
You weren't shocked that she lost out or that she went for it?
That she went for it because I was mixed the two of them up, just because they're quite similar ages. And Scarlett Johansson's in another film as well.
Home Alone 3.
Aye, so I think that's where I get a mix up with Kirsten Dunst as well. So, aye, and Anna Chlumsky, who was in My Girl. I've never seen that film, so I don't know what she's like. But Kirsten Dunst's experience in Interview with a Vampire in 1994 helped her secure the role. So I know Craig from the script, even though he doesn't like Kirsten Dunst, he did say that she was very, very good in that as well. So obviously helped her.
Did you mention the bit about the actor that played the two parts, or did I?
I'm coming on to that.
I'm
going to come on to that.
Cool.
Peter, Elijah Wood, and Haley Joel Osment was apparently asked to do it. And now we've got Van Pelt and Sam Parrish, who is played by Jonathan Hyde. This guy is in a few things, but he's in Titanic as well. That guy, but Tim Curry was apparently going to be playing him, Christopher Lloyd, and Lance Henriksen, who was in Aliens. But the reason why John Hyde was chosen, and then we'll talk about this through the film as well, but it's because he played his father, who was strict, but also played the kind of intimidating Van Pelt, the hunter, which kind of symbolised Alan's fears as he was a boy.
I'll be honest, I didn't clock while watching the film that it was the same actor. It was just when I was looking at
Did you not?
confirmation
No.
afterwards. Nah.
No.
It's because you're obviously not looking for it, are you? And he obviously looks a lot different.
He's got a disguise on. He's got a fake mustache on.
Yeah.
And I'll stop here. Carl Bentley, Soulman, Eddie Murphy, and Danny Glover were names that were floating about. So there you go.
It's amazing. A lot of the films we've reviewed from the 90s, there was just like all these huge names, wasn't there? Just going for these different roles.
I know. To be fair, I don't know. I mean, because the film's that embedded into our brains now. I mean, I don't really see anybody else playing the parts that way. So, and I'm quite glad some didn't play the part. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
Right, let's go into the scenes. There's quite a lot in this film. It's quite a long film, isn't it? But
so not an hour 40, maybe.
I said at the start it was an hour 44 minutes size, so it was longer than I thought it was, to be honest with you. But it starts off, and what is it again? It's like 1869, isn't it? So.
Yeah, the very first scene, yeah.
Aye, so 1869. It's like two boys, who are panicking. They're digging deep in a hole. They're trying to bury this game, Jumanji, and you can see they're scared and all that sort of thing. And one of them says, "May God have mercy on his soul, whoever finds this," which obviously tells you it's something bad. You know what I mean? What is this that they're burying? And they don't want anybody else to find it or to play it. And they hear this kind of the jungle drums, which is obviously a thing throughout the whole film. It grabs certain people's attention. So that scene, mate, in itself, what do you think of the start scene?
Obviously, we talked about how my memories from the past were quite hazy, but it's actually in some ways quite a dark start to the film. Obviously, it goes on to be wacky and full of colour, but the first few scenes you're actually quite nervous about what's going to happen, because those boys were obviously scared at their wits, and there is actually quite a few scenes in the movie that are a wee bit scary, or at least a wee bit off-putting, depending on what your fears are. But I think that first scene's good because it shows that this has happened before, and it's becoming a bit of a generational curse, essentially.
Yeah, that's quite a good start to the film, man, because it left a wee bit of kind of question: what is this game? What is this? We don't know it's a game at the time. What is this that's so dark that they're burying so no one can find it? It's making strange noises.
Yeah.
So we cut to 100 years later. It's now 1969, and it's a young Alan Parrish who he's obviously quite wealthy. His dad is the owner of pretty much everything in the town. He owns Parrish Shoes, but he's got a kind of construction company as well, isn't it? You can see it's near the site. I think he owned that as well. But the son is kind of getting bullied with a bunch of other kids, and he runs into the factory where he meets Carol. I'm just going to call him Soulman because I can't say that name. So he meets the Soulman who talks about his new invention, the kind of the trainers and things. It's going to reinventing everything. For him, this is his ticket to become a millionaire. Alan accidentally puts the trailer in a conveyor belt. It ruins it, and he confronts his dad because he's getting bullied, and his dad wants him to face his fears. So he's got to stand up and either take a beating or try and beat them up and try to kind of stand up for himself. Inevitably, what happens is he gets battered, and his bike. I think his bike gets crushed as well. I don't know. I think they damage his bike. So see that scene. Obviously, you meet his dad and you meet the Soul Man, and you see the bullies and things as well. What was your take on all of that? Because it happened quite quickly. It seemed to be bump, and then you got battered. So what was your take on that scene?
It's never nice to see bullying, is it? And those boys, well, they were obviously just picking on him because of who he was and his wealth, but they were just essentially nasty for the sake of being nasty, weren't they?
Aye.
And he's obviously going to the family business for a bit of security, and it's a bit of a weird one with the dad because it's mentioned later on. It's like nobody loved their kid more than he did, but I didn't really like the guy, to be honest. I thought he was really cold and kind of aloof with his son and just basically sending him out. I understand trying to instill like some discipline and some like standing up for yourself, but I suppose I don't think he knew that there was a big group of them. I think he thought it was just the one boy.
Yeah.
But still, I wasn't a big fan of the dad, and the line about him being like nobody cared for his son more than he did, I didn't really buy. I did like, obviously Bentley's my screen name. I thought he was. I feel there's always one character in a film that just becomes really memorable, and I felt his enthusiasm for his idea and he just seemed like an all round good guy, and it's obviously good as the film goes on that things get better for him.
Did you not think at that point in time, when because obviously his shoe gets caught in the conveyor belt thing, and Alan sees it happening, and he sees Soul Man getting fired on the spot pretty much.
Yeah.
You don't think Alan could have owned up at that point, or was he just too scared of his dad? And he doing that, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of him being scared of his dad, which obviously he is at that point in the film, but it's also to set up the character arc, isn't it? And him owning up is part of the reconciliation, I suppose, with his dad at the end.
Do you think that he deserved to get battered because he didn't own up? Do you think if he owned up at the time that the bullies would have been there?
I don't think anyone deserves to be battered, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm joking, mate. I'm joking.
I've always been more of a lover than a fighter.
That was a joke. I just wanted to see you swim there. Okay. So obviously he comes out and he gets he hears these noises, the jungle drums, and finds a game. He takes it out because they're building houses on top of where the kids buried it 100 years ago.
Ancient Indian burial ground.
So he takes the game and goes home with it. When he goes home, he's talking to his mum and his dad, and his dad's tried to send him to boarding school to become a proper man, which again, he's obviously this is a kind of generational thing. He did it. His granddad did it, and every man before him went to this school and became the people they are. He didn't want to go to that school. His dad was kind of obviously having it, and he was telling them that he's going to run away. Well, we didn't tell them, but he was thinking about running away. So before he leaves, though, he gets a wee visit from Sarah, who is the girlfriend of Billy, who was the wee boy who was bullying him. And you're right what you say as well, mate. I think that the boy who was bullying him was using, I think, his girlfriend as an excuse to probably, lay one on him because he was jealous. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Because it's mentioned earlier on that Alan's been hanging about with her a lot.
Aye.
Just on the reason for Alan getting sent to the boarding school, and this one it's just to kind of like to follow in the family lineage. But when I was reading up on the trivia, there was a previous script that it painted it in a different light. So it was the parents were wanting to send him away because he was getting picked on and because he wasn't fitting in with the local kids. So that wasn't what they eventually went with, but that was one of the kind of previous concepts.
Okay.
Which would have framed the film differently. I think it would have made the parents seem a bit more sympathetic and caring than what's presented in the film.
No, you're right. I agree with you there. So Sarah, comes into Alan's house, and they curious about this game. They get the game out, and they play it. Sarah doesn't really want to play it. She goes just to leave, but when they roll the dice, she rolls the dice first, and the piece moves by itself, which again is a wee bit. Oh, that's interesting. That how come that? It must be magnetic or something. He says
Microchips.
Was it microchips? He says.
Well, no, that's later on.
So it was all, and it reads a message on it. I can't remember what the first message said. It's about the bats anyway. But then Alan rolls the dice, and then he gets the message on the board game to say, "In the jungle, you must wait until the dice read 5 or 8." Now, I watched this last night, right, and I'm thinking of it differently now. But I'm thinking 5 or 8. So I did the maths behind it. So there's a 5 out of 18 chance that she would get 5 or 8 in the dice roll. Couldn't she have just chanced it and just rolled the dice until he didn't get sucked into the game or sucked out of the game?
But plot.
I know, but I'm just thinking here. Do you know what I mean? And I get it as well. I'm kind of half joking here. I'm joking the fact that the fact is that she was scared out of her wits and she just witnessed a boy getting sucked into a game. I get that. Do you know what I mean? And
I don't blame her because those bats were terrifying.
Aye. But I mean, obviously, I'm joking. I say this that it's no ideal that the fact that he sucked into a game and what do you do then? Do you know what I mean? She just witnessed him, and then she's obviously spent her whole life to try to justify what she's seen and that she's getting made out. She went to psychiatrists and all that sort of stuff, but he gets sucked into a game anyway. What's your whole take on that, mate? What was it about the whole kind of the noises and the kind of supernatural events in it?
I think the drums were quite foreboding.
Mm-hmm.
Gave it a wee bit of a horror vibe in a sense. And I think, as I said earlier, there's various bits throughout. There's at least 3 bits in the film that it's not kind of outright scary, but it made you a wee bit nervy. Like the way the bats were portrayed, and when they attacked Sarah on the way out, like that was like even just watching that as an observer, never mind being one of those 2 kids. I think that would definitely scar you for life. I think the Jumanji concept would have been a great origin story for Bruce Wayne as Batman. Do you not think?
I know.
it's a bit scarier than even what happened to him at the start of Batman Begins.
I think so.
Those bats were scary, man. I don't know if it was just the way they were portrayed back in the 90s, but I think it actually made the creatures, some of the creatures, a bit more terrifying because it was kind of not up to date effects,
So he gets sucked into the game. She runs at the house, and the bats follow her. And then basically the game's left untouched. It's on the floor, and there's no players left to play the game until 1995. The Peter and Judy and their aunt Nora, is that her name?
Yeah.
I didn't know to move in. The house has been empty for 26 years or something like that. That's how long that Alan was left in the game, and you get the kind of haunted feeling from it. And you get a wee kind of insight to the kind of personalities of Judy, who's played by Kirsten Dunst. She seems a very kind of sarcastic kind of person. We've got wee Peter, he's a quiet, but he's quite, he's quite daring, I think. And again, they hear like the whispers of what happened to Alan Parrish. There's like the rumours and the kind of misconceptions that he was murdered by his father because he knew how kind of strict he was and all that sort of thing. So
yeah,
then you go.
I was just saying it makes you immediately think about kind of what happened to everyone that was left behind. So although I didn't really like his dad at the start of the film, his parents must have had a horrible time of it, because it seems like they spent the rest of their lives searching for him to no avail.
Yeah.
But also the Peter and Judy's parents, obviously, it's mentioned that they died in a Canadian skiing trip.
Yeah.
And so obviously Nora's like the MVP, like raising these two orphan kids. But it was also mentioned in the trivia that she was originally just going to be the mum rather than the aunt. So that was something that was changed on future rights.
Mm-hmm. So again, it's Peter that finds a game, and he's desperate to play it. Do you know what I mean? But it's quite good because Alan didn't read the game initially, didn't read the instructions, but Judy does. Judy reads the rules. It says that the pieces move on their own, and the game must be completed for everything to return to normal. But they don't actually realise what the game entails. So they do play the game. Now I could go through every single dice roll here. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to go and do that. I just kind of want to kind of go and pick the kind of key scenes, mate. So I want to come to you on this. Obviously, one of the key scenes you're going to talk about is the fact that Alan Parrish comes back into the game. So I want to come to you here. When they start playing the game, what is the kind of the most kind of memorable scenes and the kind of most memorable dangers from the game, in your opinion?
So just anyone throughout the film?
Anyone's, mate, aye.
Well, I think the bats, as I've already mentioned, were pretty terrifying. The other two, it was the big plant thing that's a bit like the dinosaur out of Jurassic Park, but a bigger version, and it's like a big flower that opens up. That one's pretty.
The poison dart.
That one's pretty scary as well. But I thought the spiders were. I don't know your view on spiders, but I thought the spider scene near the end was pretty freaky. Just them kind of crawling about, particularly when Alan's obviously stuck in the floor at that point.
I don't mind spiders, mate. I can't.
Nah, not spiders. Not spiders of that size, anyway. Other two ones that come to mind are obviously, and they're a bit mental, aren't they? The monkeys, and the stampede. So just seeing all these like when I think the ant stops at the junction, there's just big elephants and zebras just flying down the road. Like, it's just a mental film when you think about it, isn't it?
Aye. I mean, I'm going to poo-poo the CGI on the monkeys. I think it's
they looked weird, but I also think it made them kind of scary at the same time because they were just so like distorted looking.
I think everything else in the film, I think is fine. You know what I mean? I think everything else. I know they used a real line for that. That was one of the bits of trivia I've seen as well. That was a real line. Aye.
There's a tiger in the bathroom.
Hangover. This was a line, and and I think the CGI of the monkeys obviously it did make them a wee bit more look strange, I think, but it did make them a wee bit menacing. And
It worked. It worked
it
for
worked.
me. I must admit, the monkeys.
Yeah, it did work. It did work. I just felt maybe everything else was fine. That just looked out of place for me. But I'm not going to score it, mark it down for that, mate, because at the end of the day, it worked. You know what I mean? It was if the goal was to scare people, it worked. You know. For me, mate, in terms of the things that came out for the game that were quite not want to say menacing as such, but I don't particularly like the idea of quicksand.
Right. Okay.
And I'm scared of it. I always remember like seeing films when I was growing up, and it would always be people stuck in quicksand. Like when I was watching like a John Wayne film or something like that, do you know what I mean? It would be somebody stuck in quicksand, and you'd always be told not to struggle, because the more you struggle, the quicker you get sucked into the quicksand. And that's what kind of happened to Robin Williams. The flyer went to quicksand kind of thing. He was eventually stuck in it. So I'm not a big fan of that, mate. But
for our American listeners, when James says flare, he means floor.
Yes, floor. Apologise for my
regional dialects. I've got a really relevant Harry Potter reference for that scene, because it's like in Philosopher's Stone when they're going through the big plant, the Devil's Snare, and they have to relax in order to fall through to the bottom.
That's you get kind of Devil's Snare, don't you?
Yeah.
Yep.
See,
what else?
These references were not shoehorned in this time. They were both really relevant to the movie.
Aye. What else in the film? I'm trying to think. Obviously, I think Van Pelt. I did like Van Pelt. His soul is like he's like a bounty hunter type thing. Because Alan rolled the dice. He was only after Alan. His mission was to kill Alan. And he had opportune moments to shoot everybody else. And I thought he was like a good antagonist through the film as well, because not only did you have the wee things, he had somebody physically chasing them through the film.
It was, the whole film is in a lot of ways, as is the sequels, it's that kind of fish out of water concept, isn't it? Obviously, Alan himself kind of is an adult, but still thinks he's a wee boy essentially, because he's never drove before, and Van Pelt obviously is that kind of fish out of water idea as well. I did like Alan's return.
Yeah, I was going to that.
Do you want to lead them?
Oh, you started it, mate. You go.
No, I think it's quite wholesome in a sense, isn't it? Like, he doesn't really realize all this time has passed and he's now Robin Williams. And the first thing he does is kind of cry out to his parents, who are no longer there, that he's home, and he's obviously dressed weird as well, and it's you feel for him because he's obviously just not aware. It's similar to in the sequel, the guy in that who plays the video game at the start. He's also not aware of the fact that all that time has passed, and it's obviously a bit of a theme. So obviously time works differently within Jumanji.
Aye, in the kind of sequel, Colin Hanks it plays, isn't it? He plays the wee boy.
I'm not sure.
I'm sure it's Colin Hanks. But our time does work differently. And it's quite heartbreaking, mate, when he comes back and the first thing he does is shout for his mum and dad, because even though he's grown up to be, Robin Williams and older Alan Parrish, he's still in his head, still that young boy who needs his mum and dad. And coming in and he's like, oh, he's running about the house, he's home, and like that sense of relief, and it came crashing down when he found out his mum and dad had passed away. Do you know what I mean? And I think that the way that he was told, he passed away. He's like, where can I find Sam Parrish? And he goes, oh, I bump into him every so often, and then or whatever, and he takes them to a cemetery. And I'm like,
because at first I thought they were alive.
Aye.
When that bit came round.
Yeah, that's the way it's made out to be, because but he obviously meant walking by the cemetery, and he would see the gravestones, you know.
I don't think he understands like inheritance laws either, though, because he seems to think he still owns the house, even though it's obviously had other owners since.
How would he understand inheritance law? But I mean,
No, I just mean he still thinks he owns the house, even though.
aye.
And Nora's, did she buy the house from? Did she buy the house from the previous owners? Or, I'm not sure
I can't
whether
remember.
she rented it or not.
Can't remember. So Alan's return was quite heartfelt. He meets Peter and Judy, and then he's the game, and Alan's like, no, what nothing to do with the game, but he realises the fact that now all 4 players are in the game. He knows whose turn it is, so he's got to reconnect with Sarah.
Yeah,
and they go to meet Sarah. And they go to her house and things, and it's like, does Sarah live here? No, Sarah's not. Like, what did she say again? It's like, oh, I lived here all my life and whatever. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah, but then she says something like, "I've not went by that name in a long time," sort of
that's
thing.
right. Aye, that's how he knew. And he goes, it's Alan," and she faints at the door.
Yeah, again,
it's a nice scene.
Quite a sweet moment. Yeah, because she was some kind of, was she like a sidekick or something? Was that her job?
Aye.
But she also, like, the community, I think, are a bit crazy because of the stories she was telling.
Mm-hmm. So they have a wee kind of a moment, and then they pull the game out, and she freaks out as well. Do you know what I mean? She's like went through turmoil all over this game, and she doesn't want to relive it all again, which is understandable. You know what I mean? So, so he's like, okay, this bit was quite cruel on Sarah. But he's like, oh, it's okay, don't worry, I won't play the game, just give me the dice. And she throws the dice into his hand, well, to his hands, and he lets his hand slip away. And the game realizes that Sarah threw the dice, and the game continues. And I must admit, the wee kind of laugh and snigger that he does, it was quite funny.
I'm wondering, so somebody who commented on Twitter said that Robin Williams wasn't as charming as we remember. I'm wondering if it's these scenes that they're referring to.
Well, nah, because there's a scene, he refers it back to himself as well. I mean, I think the fact he's so far removed from the real world that he doesn't really have time for Peter or Judy. I think he just sees them as a hindrance. Like Peter during the game, he loses the game, and he doesn't do what he's asked to do, which. If Alan did that when he was younger, his dad would give him a hard time. So he's reflected on his dad, and he says that. He says, like, I've tried so hard not to become my dad that I became, like, or something to that effect. You know what I mean? And he apologises for it. So there is moments where I think you're a wee bit harsher. You know, I don't know if I would have done that.
It reminded me a wee bit of the relationship with in Jurassic Park with the kids.
Alan Grant.
Yeah.
Aye, that's right.
Must be an Alan thing.
That's right. Could be.
Obviously, just like in that film, it kind of evolves as the movie goes on.
Aye.
I think he redeems himself a wee bit from some of his dismissiveness and sneakiness.
Aye.
As it goes on.
So Peter kind of he tries to cheat the game, doesn't he? So he realizes as well the fact that there's so much chaos happening. He wants to get me in. Everybody wants to get me in. At this point in time, what's his name? Robin Williams, Alan Parrish is getting taken away by the police because he realizes that Van Pelt is just shot at him. So he needs to get away as fast as possible. And Peter tries to cheat the game, count the many spaces there are, and just have the dice and just have it land on the numbers. I don't know what the exact number was now, but it's quite intelligent with the game. You know,
who was the copper?
Well, the copper was Soul Man. So I'm going to come on to Soma in a wee minute. But see, Peter transforming into a monkey, that was actually foreshadowed as well. Because earlier in the film, Peter mimics a monkey, scratching his sides and making monkey noises to Judy. And then when he cheats at the game, he's then punished by becoming a monkey.
It's a bit weird that, but see his transformation into the monkey just looks so out there.
Aye, and it seemed to when Alan first clapped eyes on Peter since the monkey transformation, he seemed to have known what he'd done. Do you know what I mean? It's not as if like this was so he kind of knew, but he was again. It's wee things like that that pissed him off. Do you know what I mean? Like you should you're just no following the rules. So again, he's becoming strict in things like his dad was to him.
But maybe he's also thinking about maybe mistakes he made when he was inside the game. Maybe he's just taking his own frustration out of himself on Peter.
Aye, possibly. So let's touch on Soulman then. So Bentley, who was the guy sacked from the shoe factory at the beginning, in 1969. He became a police officer. And I think he's a wee bit kind of. I don't think he's enjoying himself with it that way, and he runs into Alan Parrish and the kids every so often, and every time he meets them, there's always something happening. What did you think? Obviously, he's got a wee arc from the start to the finish as well. What did you make of him then as a character?
Obviously, being my screen name for this one, I liked him.
And mine.
I always thought he would come back because I think he was too prominent in the introduction to just disappear. I like that he got a different career, although I think he mentions at one point that he should have been a fireman instead, which was quite funny. And I'm quite glad that he pops up at all the different points, and he could be an antagonist to the heroes, but he becomes more of an ally, doesn't he, eventually? In the fight. But he kind of reminds me a wee bit of remember the policeman in Jingle All the Way that they just bump into everywhere?
That's right.
And they just cause all the mischief to him. Kind of reminded me of that a wee bit. But I like him, and I like that ultimately he gets to launch his shoe line, and he becomes the president of Paris Shoes. So he gets a good arc, and to me, he was my favorite character in the film.
Yeah, I would agree with you, mate. I think he's up there. I did like obviously Robbie Williams as well, mate. Do you know what I mean? I think we've seen a lot of sides to him. Probably the reason why he was cast, that we said at the start. Do you know what I mean? He's a very good actor, funny, like the emotional aspect as well.
The GOAT.
He's
a GOAT for me, I'd say.
Okay. I mean, we've had this conversation many times, but he's up there, mate. I'll give you it. He's up there. So move on to kind of the Van Pelt then. So Van Pelt is the hunter. So I think that the message on the game when Alan rolled the dice was a hunter from the darkest wild makes you feel just like a child. So when that message appears for Alan, it was just like his dad was hunting him, and that's why the actor who played his dad played him as well, because everything that his dad was to him is his dad now, and he still can't shake it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until obviously he eventually stood up to Van Pelt at the very end. You know what I mean? That kind of made them realise. So I know you didn't realise that Jonathan Hyde played both Alan's father.
Yeah, I didn't catch the symbolism either of him representing the dad as well. So he wasn't my favourite kind of part of the film coming from the game, but now that you've mentioned the fact he's meant to represent the dad, I guess that makes it more interesting.
I did like some of the scenes he was in, I like the scenes when he was in, looking for ammo for his gun. It's like this is years old, like, and it's like a
Yeah.
elephant rifle or something like that. It was, man. He's like, I don't know. And he goes and he gets something different, it's a new gun, and he presents him with all the gold. He's like, oh, I've got something. He's got a rifle, man. Like I don't know what gun it was he gave him, but it was a decent one anyway. A sniper rifle type of thing.
There was an interesting quote from that scene which has some meaning. It's the one where it says, the guy says to him, "You're not a postal worker, are you?" And apparently this was because in the 90s there was a lot of like circumstances of like postal workers like going a bit nuts and shooting up their workplaces.
Aye.
And apparently that's where the phrase going postal came from. Yeah.
Because there was a computer game in the 90s called Going Postal, and we used to play it. It's a network game. We went to a wee kind of thing after school. It was in a kind of college across the road from us, and we'd always go into it. Showing my geeky side here now. And we played network games. One was GTA. There was Duke Nukem, Unreal Tournament, and Going Postal was one of them. So it was basically shooting folk, and it'd be about postal workers and stuff like that. And used to be like a big network game, and you would just like put folk in that. So
seems a bit insensitive to having a game about that.
Honestly, mate, it was good laugh with my mates and that.
Is this a good time to? I don't know if you planned for this later, but I've got a couple of other. That was one quote I noted down, but I've got a couple of others here. Is there any particular quotes that stood out for you?
Well, no such a quote, mate. I did enjoy the in the kind of the department store. Can't remember the name of it now. And see when Alan gets the wee device to the air canisters and launches Van Pelt. Just Van Pelt's acting there. He's like, it's a close up of his face. I found that quite funny. I don't know about other quotes, mate. Okay, I'll let you go first, and then I'll come back to me.
Okay, there's a couple, just three other ones that I picked out. I like at the end where Alan and Sarah meet Peter and Judy's parents, and he's hired them, and they're like, "Oh, I'll start once I've been on this skiing trip," and they both just go, "No,
no." That's right.
I thought that was quite funny. I also liked when Alan thinks he's solved Jumanji, and he's like, Colonel Mustard in the library with a
wrench.
A wrench, yeah. Because I'm a big fan of the game Cluedo, so that was quite nice. And this was a good one as well, because when the crocodile / alligator appears, I was like, I wonder if it's a crocodile and alligator. And then he's like about to kiss, or Sarah's wanting to kiss him, and he's like, it was a crocodile. Alligators don't have that little fringe on their hind legs. And then, it was some good acting from Kirsten Dunst, actually, because see when like he blows that moment, she just gives Sarah like a wee look.
That's right.
In that moment. So that was just a couple that I picked up.
Obviously the quote that I said at the start of the podcast, do you know what I mean, the episode, that's the kind of one about, because Peter's trying to rise out Alan, because he's like, oh, you're scared, you're frightened. Then he goes, no, you know what I mean, you don't know what being afraid is.
Yeah.
He's lived it all in the game, you know what I mean. I think you've covered quite the other ones there, mate. I don't really, none other come to mind.
I went through a big list of them on IMDb when I was just doing a wee bit of prep before I came on, and they were just the ones I thought were my favourites.
Good. No, good one. Right. Okay. So obviously we have covered a few of the scenes and things like the kind of what comes at the game, but we'll come to the end now in the final showdown. So Van Pelt has got them trapped, and he says, "Any last words?" And it's just about to pull the trigger. Alan drops the dice because it's his turn. They roll onto the number of, I can't remember what the actual, was it 3? Can't remember what the actual dice roll was, but
Can't
again,
remember either.
I can't remember now. Any last words? And he says Jumanji. And he's like, what? Jumanji. And then that's when the game kind of opens up and sucks everything back in. But as that's happening, he fires the gun, and the bullet's so close to Robin Williams' head that it kind of stops mid-air, and everything just vanishes. And that's the kind of the bit done. But what did you think of the whole kind of coming back, like everything getting back sucked into the game, mate? What was your opinion of that?
Well, they mentioned at the start when the game's over, everything will go back to normal. So I was okay with it.
I mean, the effects and things like that is what I mean.
I didn't mind it. I quite liked how Van Pelt's head was like the last bit that went back in.
That's good. The big kid's getting sucked back into the game. That's good.
Talking about Alan saying Jumanji, it's a popular trope, isn't it? Where people will say the name of the film in the film just for the audience, but it obviously works so much better in this film because that's how you end the game, by saying the name of the game. So I think that worked quite well. I also just wanted to touch on a couple of things. We hadn't really talked about the transformation of the house. We talked about obviously the stampede and the creatures, but it becomes like a kind of a jungle in itself, doesn't it? Like totally transformed. But I also thought the scene with we'll call it the alligator, was quite scary because obviously the house had filled up with water. They were on like a wee raft or whatever, but then this crocodile's just coming for them, and Alan eventually like kind of fights it in some way because it's about to eat Sarah. And there's a bit where I think it's Peter is about to fall off into the water. So I thought that bit was quite cool. It is really cool, although I had my misconception that they went into the game, and I don't know why I had that. The way they brought the creatures and the landscape and the water and the elements, the way they brought that into the real world, I thought was really clever.
Oh, actually, I prefer it, mate. I think everything being brought into the real world rather than you go into something.
Why did I think that though? Was it just one of those weird like effects where you remember things slightly differently?
Did you watch I know you said you're watching the kind of the sequels now, but did you watch them before?
This is my first time watching them actually, because you know how quite often sequels aren't good, and because Jumanji was such a classic film from my childhood, I think it was that wee bit of reluctance, but I quite like watching the sequels maybe when we're just about to review or have reviewed a film, and I've actually really enjoyed the sequel. I've only watched the first one, or almost the full first one, but I actually thought it was quite good. I quite liked how it was like a fish out of water comedy, and how you've got Jack Black portraying the girl and things like that. Like I've actually quite enjoyed it.
No, I do like them, mate. To be honest with
you. I wouldn't actually mind reviewing the sequel at some point. It could be an interesting contrast to this.
Aye, I do like it. It's not as good as this one, but I do like it.
There's a bit in the sequel actually, because Alan obviously gets a mention because he built some kind of like shelter.
Aye.
And it belonged to him, and that was quite a nice nod there.
That was a nice touch.
Yeah,
it was. I know you mentioned it already, but obviously there's kind of three kind of time sequences here.
Yeah.
The 1869, the 1969, and then going back again. Do you know what I mean?
You know, England are world champions at this point.
They would be, aye. So they go. So when the game ends, they all go back to their normal lives, but they remember everything, don't they?
Which is weird because normally you wouldn't. Normally you would go back and forget it.
Aye.
I was actually quite surprised that they went back in time. I thought it would just end kind of where it ended, like with Alan as the adult. I didn't realize it would go back to that.
Aye, because that's how Alan and Sarah reconnect. Well, they connect when they back to the original time Alan apologises to his dad, and he says you don't have to go to boarding school. Don't want to. He's sorry. He owns up to to the soul man. It was his fault. Don't sack him. So everything did get fixed eventually.
Yeah, I did like that, but I just didn't. I just didn't expect it to go back that way, because there was quite a lot of bits like Sarah wants to kiss Alan before she becomes too childlike again, or whatever she said. But I liked the bits about Alan, like in terms of like driving. He's like, "Oh, I reversed out my parents' driveway once." And then later on with the cop car, he's like, "Oh, I've done it once," that kind of thing. I thought that scene was really funny. See when Bentley and Alan are in the car and he's handcuffed them to the door and they're like basically cuddling inside the car.
And they're driving to the department store.
That was quite funny.
It's a bit he's in the car initially. He's in the back seat and he's like, "I'm sorry, like you're the soul man." He goes, "How did you know that stuff?" And he goes, "It's me, Alan." It's like can I crash the car? And it's a bit as well. And then he goes, "My car, oh my car, my car." Every time you see the car is an absolute, it's monkey you're driving it, the doors hanging off, the roof's off it. So
there's a lot of good comedic elements to the film.
Aye.
But the heart's good too. Like I really do like that scene with the one you'll be coming to about the Christmas party.
Aye. So the back of the original timeline, and Sarah and Alan at this Christmas party, and Judy and Peter are there, and their mum and dad are there as well. And you've already touched on it, but they're talking about going on a skiing trip in, is it Canada? I can't remember now.
Yeah, it was the Canadian. I wrote it down. It was the Canadian. Where is it? I've got the Canadian Rockies.
The Rockies
skiing holiday.
Right. So obviously Peter and Judy don't know what's going to happen to the mum and dad because this is their timeline. I mean, they don't know because what we seen was the future. This is their original timeline. But Alan and Sarah do know because they've seen the future. They know what happens.
Yeah.
So they say, "No, you don't go." I can't remember what excuse they give him now, but don't go. And
it was something about him. They wanted him to get started on marketing right away.
Aye.
The new product line or something.
I initially thought that when I watched this last night, I thought at the back of my head that Sarah and Alan adopted them. I had that in my head, and I forgot that they went back to that timeline and they said, "No, you couldn't go." So aye.
I think we've kind of reviewed this film in the same way the film happens, because obviously when we were talking about quotes and other things, we talked about things that were at the end. So it's like we've kind of had different timelines within the review as well.
I know. I mean, I just didn't want to go through every single scene with the game. Do you know what I mean? I thought it's like just pick out the ones that are memorable and important enough. You know what I mean?
I think every movie's different. I think some movies suit going beat by beat, and then other ones it's not as easy,
Aye. Right, so that was the end of Jumanji. Is there anything you want to bring up, mate, before we give our scores and the seismic supporters?
Did you ever play the game?
I didn't. No.
Did you ever have the board game or anything?
No.
It'd be quite fun to get one, just to have in the house, a wee bit of memorabilia.
Yeah, it would be, mate.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else. It's just interesting how, although this film stands out as a childhood classic, how little I actually remembered about how it went down. But I suppose probably like 15 to 17 years or something has probably passed since the last time I actually watched it.
Aye.
But I think this is one I'd like to pass on to my own kids, to be honest, because I think it's one that I think kids nowadays could probably still quite enjoy it. I think they'd enjoy like the monkeys and the elephants and all those kind of bits.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. I was a wee bit late in the day putting this on to Twitter, man, but I got a few responses anyway. So I just asked what everybody's thoughts, opinions here. Chat Tsunami was the first up. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it's a total classic. A cautionary tale of who you should play board games with, though. Now, I'm going to say I don't know what he means by that, but I think I do.
Oh, it's like the whole Monopoly fighting cliche, innit?
Well, I was going to go down the road of, just roll the 5 or the 8. Do you know what I mean? Just roll the 5 or 8. Don't let me get sucked out of the game. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
See, just while we're pausing there, what are some of your favourite board games? Or either now or in the past?
Board games. I don't really play board games now, mate. Back, I used to play Monopoly. I played Guess Who.
Monopoly takes too long. Guess Who's good.
Guess Who. I'm just trying to think back to when I was back at school. How in Primary 7 you would get to bring board games in.
Mm-hmm.
And you would
I still play board games.
I used to have a wee. It's not really a board game as such, but I used to have a wee kind of electronic football game, and you'd be able to use wee kind of nozzles at the sides to control the players. I need to see a picture, mate, because I had it.
I had Subutio at one point.
It's not like that though. It's like you would control the players. I can't send it to you. So that, Guess Who, chess. Just trying now. I played the Game of Life as well. That was good. Buckaroo.
Oh, I had Buckaroo, yeah.
Buckaroo.
Buckaroo. Never the TV advert.
I never had Operation.
I had that, yeah.
I never had
One of my colleagues was getting rid of some games because his daughter was getting a bit older, and he gave me Operation, Jenga, and Hungry Hippos.
I had Mousetrap as well.
Mousetrap, yeah, I remember that. I had this game, this amazing game. I think I got it at like a car boot sale. It was called Crossbows and Catapults. So you had like these elastic bands with these, and they were proper lethal. I used to play it with Paul when we were younger, and you just like smash these castles down with these catapults and stuff. It was great fun. Some of my favourites, Connect 4, I've always liked.
Oh, of course, Connect 4.
Jenga's good fun. What's the other one? Frustration. Did you ever play that?
Aye.
You'd have loved that because you get so angry. And one last one I'd like to mention is Battleships, because I had an electronic one where you had to program in the coordinates, and then you would hear it, and if you sunk someone's ship, it would like flash up red. Oh, brilliant! I still got it.
We used to play Battleships on paper as well, man. Like you draw the grids, and you would just do it that way.
I do like in the classroom. I do versions of Connect 4 and things like that, knots and crosses and things like that. Build it in.
Right, here's a wee tangent now.
But relevant. We're talking about a board game.
Back to the Seismic supporters. Project Football podcast. Great film, a proper 90s classic, up there with Mrs. Doubtfire for me, for Robin Williams comedies in that decade. We've got casting reviews. Made me wonder what film it could have been if they'd chosen Operation as the game. But on topic, I remember really enjoying it at the time. And then we've got
a couple of people shared it as well. I think they put a wee caption at the top.
I've not seen that.
Let's see if I can find it.
You can find it. Jumanji, restrained Robin Williams stars in this fun family fantasy adventure. That was just a review, I think.
Oh, it was the Manic Pixie Weirdo podcast. They said roll a 5 and get sucked back in. They shared it.
Well, thank you very much for
Chat Tsunami shared the post as well, which was nice. Last film seen, did you mention that one? No.
Yeah, it's just seems to be a share though. I think it's just a share.
No, they shared. I think they had actually posted a review somewhere, and I think they just shared the link to their thoughts on the film. But it was good people getting back to us so quickly, because if you hadn't put a post on, I was going to sneak one on before we came on. So
thank you very much, folks, for getting back to us. We do appreciate it.
We do indeed.
And that leads us on to your Seismic star then, mate. So what are you giving this out of 10?
Well, as always, the seismic scores are always in motion, because I don't really finally commit until this point, because I feel like the big part of the discussion shapes the scores. So I was originally going to give it a 7, but upon reflection, I'm actually going to give it an 8, because I feel like a lot of the foreshadowing paid off. I like the stuff that, like, when the timeline switched, like the line I mentioned about the skiing holiday, and the building of the relationships, the way they brought the kind of vines and the water and the creatures into it. I liked the start, how it was quite kind of foreboding and quite dark at the start, and I thought a lot of the bats and the crocodiles, I think it still worked really well. It was interesting though, because you don't actually see Robin Williams till, is it like half an hour into the film? So I feel like you are kind of waiting for him to arrive. I think the big thing for me was I kept expecting them to go into the game. I was actively waiting on that happening, because I had this weird, like, is it the Mandela effect? Is that what they call it when you remember something differently? Or is that
it's something? Yeah,
yeah.
Mandela.
I had that a wee bit, but I think 8. I don't think it's quite like a 9 or a 10. I don't think it's maybe got enough meat in it to be as high as that on a rating out of 10. But I feel like 8 does it justice, because I think it is a really funny film as well, and it's got quite a few good lines in there. So I'm quite happy giving it an 8 out of 10.
Okay. Well, I'm going to roll my dice, mate. Let's see what I get here.
5 or an 8.
I roll the dice. I've got a 5, and I've got a 4. I'm going to give it a 9.
Then.
I'm going to give it a 9. So I think everything you say, mate, is right. Do you know what I mean? I do like the aspect of the fact that they've got or the foreshadowing into it. The fact they use the same actor to represent a different, like his dad, and the hunter that represents his dad at different points in his life is really good as well. Do you know what I mean? That would maybe be lost in some people. You know what I mean? So
like me.
It's good that way. I mean, I'm not going to be overly critical on the CGI. Like I say, I'm not going to be, because it was good at the time when I watched it. I do have a lot of nostalgia towards the film as well, mate. Obviously, watching my dad and going to cinema to see it with him and all that sort of thing. So, and even though there's not many good quotes in it, do you know what I mean? Like, I think the whole thing is good for what it is. Do you know what I mean? I could sit down and watch Jumanji quite easily tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be bored by it, do you know what I mean? So I like it in that way, and I'm everything you say I agree with, mate. But I'm just going to give it one more. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like we're usually kind of thereabouts, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So that is the review of Jumanji done. And before I go and do some more housekeeping stuff and say goodbye to you all, I think it's time for you, Colin, to give us your 3 choices for next week's film.
Well, this has been a bit stressful, because obviously Paul put in some suggestions, which led to The Running Man, and then you went up this week. So it's actually been a few weeks since I went for it, and I've been humming and hawing about what route to go. But I think I'm just going to stick with my original gut, and I'm going to have 3 options that relate to a particular actor.
Okay.
And my first option is a film that is very close to my heart, and it's one that I've wanted to review for a few years, and that film is Daddy's Home, the first one.
Okay.
So it's the Will Ferrell effect for me this time round. Although Will Ferrell's, I've not really maybe enjoyed or seen as many of his films in recent years. He had a kind of peak in the 2000s, I would say. The second option, and you better get your your mitts off the drum kit, I've put Step Brothers in there. And the last one, which I think you know what is coming, is one that I don't know why Seismic Cinema haven't done it. I'd be quite happy to do either of those two options, but it has to be Anchorman, not Anchor Lady, and that's a scientific fact. I think we'd have a lot of fun doing that one, but we need to see what the audience decides. But if Anchorman doesn't win, I'm definitely going to stick it back in the rotation in the future.
Aye, that's
so
a good...
well, Will Ferrell, Daddy's Home, Step Brothers, and Anchorman. I think no matter which one wins, I think it'd be a good episode.
Yeah,
but I think I really want to do the Afternoon Delight song live with you. I think that'd be good.
Okay, that's solid choices there, mate. Okay, so before we finish up then, I want to say thanks for watching and listening, guys. We do appreciate it. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Facebook. You can watch and listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, and all the rest of the other ones. Anyway, you can find a good podcast. And that is it.
So, I really hope this podcast washes up on a French beach at some point. Maybe make its way over to America, you know?
Never know. Okay, so I'm James. I put an essay on it. Paul has watched the third Jumanji Next Level, this Jumanji, and then the sequel Jumanji. And Colin?
I've usually not seen it, but I have seen this, but I haven't actually seen the end of the sequel or the sequel to the sequel. So that's to come.
Excellent. Thank you. Oh, wait a minute. I've got a game to play. See you later.